Be having a look at PAROT. Now, nothing in here you couldn't go and do yourself if you wanted to. I sell PAROT for $750 plus just a year, which is pretty darn cheap. But if you see an idea in here and you want to steal it and go and run with it yourself, you're more than welcome to. So this isn't so much selling you things, it's showing you some of the things that I've done with schools that I think is useful. So a brief overview. I didn't want to create another platform because teachers don't need somewhere else to go. So wherever possible, and when I started it was all based around email. So teachers get an email into their inbox. They don't need to go somewhere else. It's just there. It evolved over time and I eventually did end up creating another platform. It's predominantly useful for deans and HODs. And when you do need to get into it, it's not another password. It's just integrated with your sign-on with Microsoft or Google. It's built to solve problems. So everything that's in there is there because either myself or someone else had a problem that needed solving. And in general, in schools, if you have a problem, someone else probably has a problem too. So this session is not a how-to. There's a whole bunch of videos on the website of how to use PAROT, and we're slowly doing more of them. This is kind of just a broad overview of some of the things that I think might be useful data-wise for schools. And if you see something in here you like and you want to go and build it yourself, please steal it. Everything is, there's nothing, secret here. So please, if you want to steal ideas, please do. So we're going to start with emails. So we all know that teachers are time poor. If you ask them to go and do something or go somewhere, it'll happen for some of them and probably not for others. So delivering stuff to them at the right time with the right information can make their life a lot easier. So here's an example of some of the information that we've found useful for tutor teachers. So here's an update for students in my form class. The following students have been at school for 1 half day or less in the last 2 days. So these are the kids that have been away. Quick little check-in. Hey, where are you at? If we know what's going on as a form teacher, that's great. If you don't, it's a good opportunity to be able to check in with them. One of the things that a lot of schools ask, it varies from school to school, but a lot of form teachers are responsible for following up on those question marks for students. Rather than having to trawl through Kmart to work out where all those question marks are, here's a list of the question marks. You don't need to go and find them. You can see exactly who they are. They're all just there. The other one that I quite like is NCA results in the last day, so that you can have those really positive conversations. When Johnny comes in the morning, you can say, hey, well done, Johnny, on that merit. That's fantastic. We really like that. There's a whole bunch of other things that different schools put in those daily emails, but that's some of the ones that I think are most useful. The other one is on a weekly picture, getting a little bit more of a high-level overview. So the kids with the lowest in-class attendance, a lot of the stuff I do on PAROT is in and around in-class attendance. The ministry cares about half-day attendance, but a student can actually wag a period a day and still have 100% attendance if they do it strategically. But also you've got those kids that are at school, but they're involved in a bazillion different other activities and they're not actually in class. And we all know as teachers, if a kid is not in front of us, we can't be teaching them something. So this is looking at the in-class attendance and what else they're up to. So you can see if you've got those kids that, aren't in class, but they're doing a bunch of school-based activities, or you can see those ones that, are truanting lots. There's also data on here on star days, which we all like at the moment, and question marks. And there's a bunch of other information that you can include in there as well. We've got a bunch of custom staff emails, which I'm not going to show you today, but they can do all sorts of different things. The other one that's quite useful, don't have to, print off notices every day. They just deliver to your inbox 8 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 in the morning. Here's the notices for the day. Don't need to go looking for them. The other one that I personally found really useful as a teacher was this one, which is these kids here have been marked present in one class but not in the other classes, or vice versa. These ones have been marked absent in one class but present for the others. It's the bottom one that was more of a problem, or I'd get more often. I'd do my role at the start of the lesson, and then Jessica would come in after a music lesson and I would forget to go and change it. And so the next morning I get a reminder saying, hey, you marked it absent. She's probably, was she there? And so it's just a nice little chance to clean it up. But also, if she wasn't there, why was she skipping just my class? Because that's something to reflect on as well. Or towards the end of the year, I was teaching year 13 calculus. I had a few of these coming through where the kids were just turning up to just my class and they weren't turning up to any of their other classes, which, yeah, I mean, calculus is the only worthwhile subject to study. Yeah. So we've looked at tutor emails, notices, unusual attendance. Duty roster, one of the ones with those emails that's quite useful is, you know, hey, Mr. Smith, you're on canteen duty at lunch today. And it just automatically goes, you don't need to think about it. And it's just a nice little reminder that they've got their duty today, because most of the time our teachers want to do the right thing. It's just very easy to forget. So I just leave that sitting in my inbox, starred as a reminder until I've done my duty. Pastoral notifications, they do all come through to KMA, but lots of people don't check their little flag thing down the bottom corner. Class effort reminders, we've only built in the last couple of weeks. A lot of schools use class efforts on KMA on a weekly or 2 weekly cycle. It just flicks an email to those people who haven't done it going, hey, just a reminder, you've got these to do. The other ones is school leadership emails. So all of those daily and weekly emails that we saw just before, you can get going to senior leaders for groups, be it year levels, houses, ethnicities, student types. So you could get one for, your foreign fee payers or something like that. You can also get a whole school summary. So this is a summary here of all of the attendance across the school. So you can quickly pick up any trends. Hey, it looks like our year 10 attendance is a little bit lower this week than the other year levels, and broken down in different ways. And then we've got a bit of a graph here of that the dark blue is in class and the light blue is at school. And so if you're seeing sort of some differences there, that's a nice one to sort of pick up on. We don't do a lot of comparison data in PAROT. The only one that we do that with is attendance, and it's entirely opt-in. Your data is only included if you opt in. But this means if you've had a drop in the last couple of weeks, is that something we're seeing everywhere, or is that something that's just unique to our school? So that allows you to do some comparison data there. That's what some of the pastoral notifications can look like. So this one's set up to just email all of the star things that have come in the last week. And yeah. The other one is published results with the new NZQA API this year, where data is going automatically through from KMA to NZQA. A few of the principals nominees were like, actually, I want to know what's being published, because if stuff's going that I'm not aware of, that's not good. So this just sends a daily email of, hey, this is what's been published. And they can just quickly scan through it and go, cool, I know about all of those ones. What's happened there? The other one is emails to students and caregivers. So we like our students to be self-managing. Some of them are better than that than others. We can set it up so that they get emails of the question marks that they've got sitting on their attendance record. Then hopefully what happens is they can go and say to, Mr. Nash, hey, Mr. Nash, remember I did turn up slightly late, and they can have that conversation and tidy it up themselves. It's not going to make a difference for, your bottom 20% of kids probably, but, if you can get some of them self-managing, this is a win. We can also send weekly summaries home. So these summaries are can have a whole bunch of different sections. They can have results and pastoral and class efforts. And the one that a lot of schools are using at the moment is this one and around star attendance. So we've had 9 days away in term 1, 1 day away in term 2. And if that continues at that rate, we'd still be in that good category, or might be in one of those other categories. There's also the ability to send star emails out of PAROT. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that one today. So that's kind of the email tools. Again, trying to not have somewhere that teachers need to go, just having it delivered to them at the right time with the right information, making their life hopefully a little bit easier. Next up, though, we're going to look at, so instead of that data being pushed, it's pulling. So one of the times that's really useful to have all of your data on a student in one place is when you're sitting down and having a mentoring conversation with them. So the attendance screen pulls in whatever is set up in that weekly email. So you can customize that quite a bit. But this here gives me the data on the attendance for that kid. Teachers is a really useful one. particularly for deans. Yes, it's easy to send an email to, a KMR message to all of the kids' teachers, but they don't check them. I know when I was a dean, often, I'd be meeting with mum that afternoon, learning to arrange that day. I want to get a quick bit of feedback from the teachers on how Johnny's doing in his class. I can just hit one button. It'll open up an email in Gmail or Outlook if you're using Outlook, and you can just flick an email straight to all of those teachers. Massive time saver, that one. NCA, it graphically displays all of the NCA data. So you've got your co-rec data, level 1, 2, and 3, and broken down by subject for each year. And if you hover over any of the bars, it gives you a breakdown of what those results are from. So we can see that this one here, we've got 3.2, 3.9, 10, and 15 left to go in our MAT course. Year 9 and 10, or year 7, 8, 9, and 10 is done differently at every single school. Every school has their own little take on it. So we've built in what's called custom qualifications. That lets you take, if you've got some sort of consistency in your data, we can pull it together and we can display it. So PATs are nice because they're nice and consistent already, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you can bring in, be it curriculum levels, not that we have curriculum levels anymore, be it smart data, be it if you run a not achieved, achieved merit excellence system in your junior school, all of that can come through as long as there's some sort of consistency to it. We can bring through the assessment timeline as well. So this means you can quickly see what assessments students have got coming up. Any assessments that are supposed to have been done already, if they don't have a result in yet, why don't they have a result in? Leads to some good discussions. Literacy and numeracy and UE, which we'll look at in just a moment, are both sillily complex qualifications. There are 5 different ways you can get literacy, 4 different ways that you can get numeracy. This tries to break it down into as visual a kind of breakdown as possible. So you've got can they get it from the CAAs? If not, can they get it from the transition standards, and so on. And UE, there's a whole bunch of subjects that can combine together to give other subjects like biochem and physics can make science, and calc and stats can make maths. This breaks it, tries to display it visually, but also gives you a list of how many subjects, based on the overlapping standards, students have got enough entries to be able to get. So there's that, and also how many that they've passed already. The final bit in this is the planning stream, which I quite like. It's designed to easily print out, and it gives you all of the information on one page that a student might need. There's options there between level 1, 2, and 3. It's got and UE. What do you need for that level? And then all of the relevant assessments, all highlighted based on whether or not they've got them or not. So that's a bit of the mentoring conversation stuff. Again, if there's stuff in there that you're like, hey, that looks cool, feel free to go and build it. All of the stuff you could probably build in Power BI or in Google Sheets, but you might want to just go, actually, let's just use what Jake's got as well. Summary dashboards. So now we're kind of looking at overall cohort tracking. So we've got this one here, which is a quick summary of attendance. So that's the 4 ministry categories of I can't remember what they all are, but the top one's regularly attending, broken down by year level, ethnicity, overall for your school, and by gender. We can also look at STAR data, which is the ministry reports on attendance categories, but we report to parents on STAR categories, and unless there's exactly 50 days in a term, they don't perfectly line up. So both are useful. The Dean's dashboard, there is a whole bunch of different columns here on the right-hand side that you can choose to bring in depending on what you're wanting to look at on any particular day. You can bring in attendance data, STAR data, pastoral data, class efforts, recognitions, custom qualifications, NCA information, projected credits, previous year data, special assessment conditions, literacy and numeracy, whole bunch of other things.
Pass rate?
So the pass rate would come through with the NCA. If you brought up level 1, you can see the pass rate for level 1. Yeah.
So attempted credits
versus, yeah. Yeah. So this particular view here has got star days and a quick snapshot on NCA, whether or not they've got their literacy and numeracy and their level 1, 2, and 3. And all of these columns are clickable. So if you just click on the top, it'll sort it. So, and click it again, it will reverse the order. There's also some summary dashboards here on NCA. So this is looking at year 12s working towards level 2. We can see we've got one here with our excellence endorsement already. We're starting to get there as the year goes on. Obviously, as the year progresses, you'll get more and more. If you want to know who these kids are, the summary tab gives you a breakdown of who all of the kids are as well. The other one that we've found for reporting to boards is quite nice. They don't want, all of the nitty-gritty detail. They just want a quick little high-level summary. This is one button, click, boom, there it is, fully up-to-date data. Year 11s and broken down by Māori and non-Māori. Some attendance data, some credit data, how many students we're predicting to get, over the line, how many have got over the line, and where are we at with literacy and numeracy. And there's some UE data in there for level 3 as well. So we found that that's quite nice for boards because it's just a quick one-click snapshot. It gives them the information they need. You're not spending hours pulling it together, and they're not spending hours reading it. Next up, we've got NCA analysis. So all of the analysis that we're looking at here for NCA, you can do with kind of your custom qualifications as well. We're looking here at NCA credits. So the colour scheme we've got here is gold is excellence, yellow is merit, blue is achieved, and red is not achieved. This is looking at a particular department. So this is the maths department broken up by course. We can see we've got... I know that these up the top here are our year 11 courses. Then we've got our alternative year 12 and 13 courses. And then we've got our level 2 and 3 stats, level 2 and 3 calculus, and our year 10 mathematics. So we can kind of see some patterns in there. If there's things that wiggle their eyebrows suggestively and say, hey, look over here, you might want to do some more digging. So you can also dig into just an individual course. So this is looking at just the level 3 calculus broken down by standards. So here's my 3 main internals that I do, my 3 main externals that I do. The other thing we care about when we're looking at, so we've looked at the quality of credits so far. This is looking at the quantity of credits. It changes from red to blue at 14 credits. 14 credits isn't necessarily a perfect number, but I can't think of a better number because 14 is what you need to get UE in a subject, is what you need for subject endorsement, and 14 times the number of subjects that a student does will kind of get them across the line. It's not perfect, but it's okay. And so this is broken down across the department, but you could look at it across different departments and slice and dice it in all sorts of different ways. You can then filter down to just an individual subject, and then you could splice it, cut it up by gender or ethnicity, by teacher. One thing I will say about splitting by teacher is just because 2 classes have different results doesn't mean that one teacher is better than the other. Last year, my school had 2 year 13 calculus classes. I was teaching one, another teacher was teaching the other. I had the vast majority of the kids taking physics in my class, and she had almost none. My results were higher than hers. I do not think it is because I'm a better teacher than she is. She's a fantastic teacher. It's because I had the kids who were taking physics and she didn't. So just because there's a difference doesn't mean that someone's doing a bad job. Earlier in the year, I was working with a school and their principal had the motto of be curious, not furious. Find out what those meanings are behind the data rather than jump into conclusions. You can also break it down and look at the individual kids. So I've obviously blurred out all of the kids' names on here because I'm not showing you their names. But if you hover over any of those, all of these boxes represent one kid. And if you hover over any of them, it'll give you a breakdown of how they've done in their different subjects, which is quite useful if a kid's done not so well in your class. Was it something that was across the board with all of their subjects, or was it just you? Or is there one subject where they're really engaging with the teacher? Because that's a good opportunity to go and chat with that teacher and go, hey, I see you've really connected with Johnny. What's worked for you that I can take and steal? You can also look at data over time. So this school's got data loaded back to 2017. You can load data back as far as you've got it inside your SMS. Generally, 2017 is probably the hard limit because before that they used to delete data from the SMS, but we can see that data over time as well. And you can also look at just an individual subject or an individual assessment or whatever over time as well. So this is just looking at one assessment here over time. You can see there's a bit of variation there, but if there is variation, then that becomes an interesting topic for conversation. NCA analysis, whole school over time. So this blue line here represents the current year. The other three lines represent the other years. So you can go, cool, are we tracking above in terms of average credits that the students have got? About the same or below? So this school for their year 13s is very much tracking right in line with where they have previous. Particularly with year 11s, with the changes to the standards. That was an interesting one to track with the new standards coming through. There's obviously quite a bit of difference there because there's a lot more externals now, there's less internals, and those internals are bigger chunks of standards. The other one that we've just recently built in is relative growth. So the way relative growth works is it takes either PAT data or the previous year's NCA data, so level 1 to predict level 2, level 2 to predict level 3, and goes how well are students performing relative to historical trends. So this is looking at level 2 data versus level 3 data. Along the bottom here, we've got level 2. Up the side, we've got level 3. The black line is on average over the last, I think this was trained on about 5 years worth of data, where did we expect students to sit? And that's for my school. So it's not across schools, it's just inside my school. And then this here, we've filtered down to just look at level 2 calculus following through to level 3 calculus. Which students are achieving above expectations, which are the ones in blue, and which students are achieving below expectations, which are the ones in red, and the grey ones are achieving within bounds of reasonable expectations. And so if I take this kid here, this kid isn't actually doing too badly. They're above, they're about halfway, but based on how they did last year, they probably should be doing better. This kid here is not doing, they're doing about the same as this kid. But for this kid, given how they've done previously, they're doing amazingly well. And so it's about celebrating that success and also highlighting any interesting bits. You can slice and dice that in lots of different ways. This is looking at that data sliced by attendance. Strangely enough, more kids are seeing higher levels of accelerated progress. Yes?
I was curious on the progression model, why we've got PAT stayed at NC level 1, PAT stayed at NC level 3, not level 2.
Because you haven't trained to level 2. If you train it in the back end, it'll be there. Yeah. Yeah. No, so yes, you can do all three, but you have to train the models on your school data. So if you go into the admin setting, you can train it in there. So that is relative growth. There's still a few more things to look at, but the next one I want to show you is PAROT Prime. So PAROT Prime came about because historically schools have done a mix of ASTL data and PAT data, and now we've got smart data. And what we really want, I'm on the board at my local primary school, what I really want to know is how my kids going, or how's my school going now compared to historical? But that's really difficult to do when it's changing all over the place and there's different ways of reporting it. So what we've done is we've taken it, we're going to a unified progress language. So we're taking all of that PAT data, all of that ASTL data, and by the end of this weekend, the smart data, because it's been released now. And we put that all against the same 5 progress descriptors, which is the emerging, developing, consolidating, proficient, and exceeding. We can make sure we're doing statistically sound comparisons. There's a consistent cohort filter. So if you're wanting to look at how your year 4s have done towards year 4s did last year to your year 5s this year, or your year 9s throwing into your year 10s, you can tick a little toggle and it will make sure that it's only picking up the kids that did both assessments. So you're making, fair comparisons. You can also look at, how your year fives did last year and then your year fives this year, and see what trends there are there as well. It's completely independent of whatever SMS you're using. It takes the data straight from ESTL and NCER Assist, and it'll take the data from Smart, hopefully by the end of the weekend. It can give you an individual summary of the students. So we've got this. This is a fictitious student that has done some ASTL and some PAT tests. We've got how they've done since 2021. So we've got the breakdown of each of their assessments across those 5-point scale. We can see their scale score because we like seeing that growth. And we can also see their same scores with EASTL data. And then we also get a nice little table of the data so we can see what tests they've done, what Stay9s and scale scores they got, what the national average was for those tests, and then where that would map in terms of emerging, developing, consolidating, proficient, and excelling or exceeding, or one of those words. It also exports through to a Google Doc for easy reporting to caregivers. This isn't really designed for secondary schools so much, but those small primary schools that don't have, good, robust procedures in and around their reporting. It gives you your title page, it gives you an about this report, it gives you all of the assessments with a graph showing growth over time, and you can come in, you can pop your comments in, and you can share it there straight to your parents.
So when you're talking about the mapping, for instance, with PAT,
yes.
So you're doing that in a particular year level to a particular set of scores, and then they're doing it in year 10, it's a different set of scores.
Yes.
Where you get the progress from.
Yes. So each NZCR has released a mapping table for each year level, what scale score corresponds to emerging, developing, proficient, exceeding, and whatever the words are. Yeah, there's a mapping table. Yeah. So you can then come and slice and dice that data in all sorts of different ways. So this is looking at year sevens, their PAT mathematics in term 1 over time. So I can see that same data from 2017 through to 2026. We can see there was a bit of a blip there for COVID. This year, we've got some really great results in my fictitious school that I'm running here. You can also display that as scale score, looking at box and whisker graphs, so we can see those shifts over time. And we can also come and look at who the kids are and behind that. So this is looking at just a particular group. This is looking at a year 8 class for term 1. It's broken it down by the assessments that have been done and where the kids are in those groups. And so I can go, cool, Eleanor probably needs a little bit of extra support, whereas Ava and Daniel might need a little bit of extension at the top end. So just pulling that all into one easy to use screen. I don't charge a lot for it. If you've got regular PAROT, it's free unless you want extra support with it. But again, if you want to take it and steal it and use ideas from there for yourself, please feel free to do so. I've got 12 minutes left, so I just want to do a quick whirlwind tour through some of the other things that is inside there. So the student view we've looked at before, that's what we were doing for mentoring conversations. PAROT has the ability to do reports mainly in and around those sort of tick boxy things where you've got your, maybe always, mostly, seldom and never, or whatever categories people have decided to do. The big advantage of that is everyone's got access to this nice little completion summary so they can see exactly who has and hasn't done their reports. Which is great from peer pressure, but it's also really great because it's so easy when you're doing your reports to forget one. And there's also a little button in the back end which you can press, which emails out all those people that haven't done reports, which kids they haven't done. And so sometimes there's good reasons not to do a kid, which is great, but it just sends an email going, hey, these are the kids that don't have a report, or these have a partially completed one. Subject choices. We have the ability to collect subject choices through PAROT. The big advantage of this over other systems, because there's lots of ways you can collect subject choices, is that once the subject choices are recorded, they come into here and then teachers can check them. So what happens is that I, as a year 12 calculus teacher, can see which of my kids have chosen year 13 calculus, and I can click whether or not I think they've got a good chance of success there's some concerns or success is unlikely. And that all comes through to a central dashboard. The deans can see all of the kids where it's being flagged as success unlikely or cause for concern. If there's a whole bunch of cause for concerns or success unlikely, then that might be a good opportunity to have a chat with that kid about their pathways. And it means that you can hopefully get your subject choices right before you start timetabling, which means you can get your staffing right so that you're not having to make massive changes to your timetable come mid to late January. So that's the idea behind that. You can tell I've possibly had some of those things happen to me in the past. Attendance. These are attendance dashboards. They pull data through straight from KMR. You can slice and dice them in all sorts of different ways. Engagement, you can look at pastoral data, you can look at class effort data, and you can look at recognition data, and again, slice and dice it by class and teacher and gender and ethnicity and so on. We've just recently, this year, we've added walkthroughs, which is a module for capturing classroom observations that enables you to set up customized forms. You can choose what goes on those forms, and it collects all of that data in a central location. That means that you can see which teachers have had those observations done and which ones haven't, and who's been doing those observations and who hasn't. Dashboard we looked at before, that was the Dean's dashboard, where you can get all of those columns and tables. Achievement analysis we looked at, that was where we were looking at all of the NCA data, but if you've got some consistent data there for your junior school, you can pull that through as well. We built moderation into PAROT before KMR had moderation. It does what it says on the tin, allows you to manage moderation. If you've got a successful system that's working for you, I wouldn't go rush to change to PAROT, but we built that before there was other options. Student surveys, I think, is really cool. One of the things that we want to be doing as teachers is reflecting on student voice. One of the things that's really nice from a school leadership perspective is to pull all that data into one place and go, is there any trends that we want to be working on? But also making sure that we're asking consistent questions and we're not just asking our favourite class, we get some nice feedback from them, we give ourselves a little pat on the back and we move on. What this does is PAROT knows what subjects students are taking, so it grabs all of the subjects that they're taking, it asks them the same set of questions for each of their subjects, and then as a teacher I can come in and I can see how is my class feeling about calculus versus their other subjects. But it also preserves that teacher privacy. You can't go in and see another teacher's results. You can only see your results, and it's kind of locked down in such a way that you can't see the other ones. An HOD can come and see their department, but they can't work out, it's set up in such a way that they couldn't work out who the individual teachers were inside there. Progress. Quite a few years ago now. So Carpety College used to use not achieved, achieved, merit and excellence when reporting in the junior school. What we found is that by midway through year 9, the kids would, we had points rather than credits. They would go, sir, is this worth any points? We'd go, no, and they go, well, I'm not going to do it then. And the culture had shifted from learning to point accumulation. We decided to shift away from giving grades entirely. And so what we did is we created a progress bar with basically I can do statements at various different levels. And a couple of times a year, we would report against the same bar and we'd be looking to see that progress over time. And then we were looking at two things, which I've heard multiple people talk about today, that are important. One, we're looking for those kids that are achieving well, but we also want to see those kids that are making big shifts. And it means that what we found is, those kids would be coming in at the top end. They'd be working at an excellence level, and they'd still be working at an excellence level, but they probably could actually be growing more. Or you'd have that kid that came in who really battled. They got a not achieved. They'd made massive progress. They might have come in working at a year 4 level. They'd made massive progress. They're now working at a year 8 level, but that's still a not achieved. And it felt wrong to be giving these kids not achieved because they've been working so hard. They've made this massive progress. So this lets you view that progress. Complaint is a centralized place where you can bring, basically put in complaint about staff. It's locked down so that only a few people can see that complaint side of things. and it's all managed centrally in one place so that it's not getting lost all over the place. We have gateway reporting in there. So one of the requirements with the gateway program is you have to report to TEC at the end of the year. Quite a few schools were paying lots of money for something they're only using a very small amount of. So this lets you do all of the TEC reporting straight from there. We've got all of the data that was needed for that. You just got to tick a few buttons and put in the employer details. Assessment timeline brings in all of that assessment timeline data from the Markbook setup. So as an HOD, you can come in and you can see which assessments have been done so far in your department, and if there's any that were supposed to be done but you haven't got any results in yet. And as when you're kind of looking at a cohort, you can go, is there any going to be crunch points here that could cause problems for either for staff in terms of marking load or also for students in terms of assessment load. And the other one we do is we can track Google Classroom usage if you use PAROT to sync the classrooms, which I'll talk about in just a moment. There's also a bunch of other stuff in the back end. You can work out average class sizes. There's a bunch of custom emails, exports, and scripts. If you're the sort of data geek like I am, you can get full access into the database that we use behind because it's fun. We can also sync Google Classroom. So this one is a big time saver for teachers rather than at the start of the year, them having to set up all of their own classrooms and import their kids in. All they do is they press accept. Once they've pressed accept, all of the kids are in there automatically. If their timetable changes on Kmart, the kids automatically come in and out. Big time saver for the teachers. You can also print a bunch of the stuff from the back end as well. You can do checking of report attitudes. So on Kmart, you can do those report attitudes. This lets you quick and easily check them. You can also check which teachers have been doing their roles, whether or not they've been doing them before the period, whether or not they've been doing them in the period, or whether or not they've been doing them after the period, or whether they haven't been doing them. The other one that we have found really quite useful is the temporary ID photos. At the start of year 9 or year 7, whenever your school starts, the kids come in, and until you have your photo day, you don't know what those kids look like. And particularly for our high flyers, knowing who they are in that first couple of weeks is really quite useful. So this lets the teachers from their laptop just quickly, the kid comes and sits down, they press a button, it takes a photo, you can then sync that back to your SMS, and it's all in there really easily. So few summaries and takeaways because we've got 2.5 minutes left. Wherever possible, I'm a big fan of pushing, not people having to go and pull, so that data appearing with them not having to go and find it. Keeping things as simple as possible wherever possible. But there's a lot of power, and it's always a balancing act between giving people lots of power to look at all sorts of things and keeping things simple. And I'm sure I don't always get that right, but we try. And everything that you've seen here today has either been because I've had a problem or someone else has had a problem. And if we can all solve each other's problems, then this seems like a good thing. So PAROT is pretty cheap. It costs $749 plus just a year. I'm not charging the earth for it. I don't make massive amounts of money from it, but I enjoy doing it, so it's there. PAROT Prime, if you don't have PAROT, costs $295 plus just a year. And both have got options for extra support if you want extra support on top of the software. And if you want to know more, there's some websites there, and I've also got some cards up the front here for both PAROT and also Report It if you want to look at some health and safety things. Does anyone have any partai before we finish up?